Yes, 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 yes. It's Thursday and we are ready to go. Are you ready to go, babe?
I'm ready to go. I'm so
All
ready. I'm
right.
excited about tonight's
Awesome.
part.
So, all right. Let's do this. I am Teddy Jones,
I am Latoya Berry Jones.
and
This
this is
is
us.
us. Welcome, 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 friends, to part two. As we promised you in we're episode 10, right, babe? Episode 10,
Yep.
part
Episode
two.
10.
And last week, the doctor was in the building. And tonight, she's back and she's here to continue the conversation that we were having last week. It was exhilarating, it was so informative, it was so visual, it was so educational, it was everything, it was the
Deep,
full package.
deep,
And
deep.
so Dr. Clovet Hessing is back with us tonight, again,
Yep.
this evening, again, to share, to touch on another part, a flip side of, endometriosis. And she spoke about what it was, what it looks like, what it can feel like, what patients describe it to be, how it affects women, how it affects families. And tonight we're going to talk about, when endometriosis hits and the partner, how does one partner, help in this process, the support that is needed and should be given. And we're going to be talking about the big I, infertility. A lot of people are afraid to talk about it. Some people hush hush about it. Some people don't
Yep.
want to. And so people don't get help. And there is help. And so the doctor is in the building one more time for part
Yes.
two to shed some light and demystify some things for us. So it's a privilege to have you back with us, Dr.
Welcome, Doc.
Hesse.
And
Welcome
and
back.
she's actually on the job. She's actually uh, on the job and actually on call. So we really appreciate the effort, the sacrifice, Doc, to ensure that we'll be able to continue to sh share with our listeners, our viewers on this very important, very, very important issue. This evening
Thank
is
you so very much for
particularly
having me
important
again.
for the men. Yeah, welcome. Particularly important that we have the men listening in and viewing this evening. So, ladies, if you are watching, you have a brother, you have a dad who is around, you have an uncle, you have a brethren, a friend, any man that you know, just shoot them a WhatsApp, shoot them a message on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, wherever they are. Send them an email, pick up the phone, send them a text, call them and say, yo, you need to tune into this. This is something that men need to be a part of. All right. And of course, special welcome to the ladies. And we're happy to have Dr. Hessing again. What's up, Doc?
All right, so here again, definitely is a wonderful experience the last time, and here again to share in the discussion as it surrounds endometriosis and infertility. Very, very big and very complex topic, and this is reflected in how it affects women as well as the men with whom they relate. The last time we spoke, we went much into the whole biology and pathology
Yeah, bio class.
of endometriosis. We kind of touch on what really causes endometriosis, what is it really, and what are the symptoms, and how is it diagnosed. And as you mentioned, Teddy, tonight we want to um, shift it more onto patient side, psychologically, relationally, emotionally, and what are the impacts as it relates to the couple, as well as the big I, as Latoya mentioned, infertility.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So, Doc, just share with us a bit. You know, you spoke about, you know, and you showed us a picture. The picture is still in my head. I can still see, you know, you showed us the normal womb versus the womb that is, you know, uh
Affected. Yeah.
infected with affected, you know, with endometriosis, and how that
Right.
can affect, you know, the menses, the whole natural cycle of just getting pregnant and everything. So I want you to tell us what is infertility so that anybody can understand what that means.
All right. So infertility is really simply a woman's difficulty to conceive. Um, Usually for new partners, um, we would use a timeline medically, but really and truly, infertility can be for a woman who has never ever conceived, as well as for a woman who may have conceived before, but is having difficulties to conceive subsequently to that. So for the woman who has never ever conceived, they're in a consensual relationship, having regular sexual intercourse as unprotected, regular meaning more than three or more times a week, and they're not having this person is having a regular menstrual cycle, of course, but they're still not conceiving after a year, then we would consider that to be primary infertility, right? So that's for the woman who has never been pregnant. For the woman who has had at least one pregnancy before, but now is having some challenge, then this would be considered as secondary infertility. All right, so that's just semantics, but just to clarify that. And in either case, we have to investigate both the woman and the partner.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we had touched on that last time, right? So infertility is really not a woman's problem only. So we have
Right.
to look at both parties. And I
Right.
did mention that usually myself, most consultants, we usually see the couple together in this type of consultation, right? Because we want to get the history, what is going on with the person's prior history, and we want to take both pictures together. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So with regards to infertility,
All right. I think we lost,
that we
losing
are
the
both on the
connection.
same page, right?
Okay. All right. Sorry, Doc. We lost your connection there for a bit. So you're going to need to just pull up a little bit to make sure that we get that.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, babe, I was saying, I've never thought about it when Doc said that there's infertility is also for the woman who has already conceived, but now something has changed and she's no longer able to conceive. I never really thought about it that way. I always think it's just the person who has actually
Was
never had a child.
never or and trying, was never had
Right,
and is trying.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's really interesting. Really
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Really
Um, and
interesting to
and
note.
and and also too that a lot of times for us men, I think it's fair for me to say that for us men, we tend to generally think that it's just a woman's problem,
Mm-hmm.
or that it's a woman who can't have children and not so much. And of course, there's the whole ego thing there for us as men. It can be very deflating for a man to find out that, hey, dude, you're the one who has some issues here. So I found that particularly interesting. Doc, you back?
Seems as if she's still having a bit of issue there. So
Right.
we're waiting. Right. And even yeah, you mentioned about the men, but even the women, soon after a woman goes into a relationship or soon after a woman gets married, you know, everybody's watching the belly. Everybody's in the belly.
Right.
And they're working, right? 6 months pass, that's fine. Still in honeymoon stages. 1 year pass, all right, probably trying to get some things in order. But then 2 years, 3 years, 4, 5, 6, and watching the belly and nothing is happening. You know, people start to.
And then they start asking the questions. You know, when are you getting pregnant?
Questions.
Yeah,
if they don't ask it, they look at you, and when they look at you, you know that they're asking the question. And then these are the things that people don't understand, that when a woman is married or in a committed relationship and there is no belly, you don't know what the issue is.
Right, but it's not even your business though. You notice, like, everybody's all up in your business. Like, it's almost like the moment they know that you've gotten married, whether they were at the wedding or not, or they know that you're not married, it's almost as if, like, they're just in your business.
It's as if you got married to get pregnant.
Exactly.
You know, it's like it's a written script that you just know. You just know that once you get married, and soon after there should be a belly in front of you. You know,
the expectation and the pressure that comes with that.
So you can imagine and the pressure.
Exactly. Yeah. Imagine then the woman who is unable to conceive, happily married, expecting children. They are expecting children. The quote unquote world is expecting a child, and then she's unable to conceive. And in this particular case, we're looking at the way in which endometriosis can contribute to that infertility. Welcome back, Doc.
Thank you. All right, so we're looking at the way in which endometriosis can contribute to infertility, and it's a big one, right? There are several causes for infertility for the female as well as for the male. So for the female, it can be any structural
Go ahead now. Sorry about that.
Right. And for endometriosis, I had gone in to basically explain how the inflammation that's resulting in the fibrosis or the adhesion bands could affect the structure of the reproductive tract, could affect the structure of the tubes and the ovaries and the placement of these structures, as well as the uterus, and how this can affect fertility. But not only that, you have a lot of inflammatory cells that are going to be present within the reproductive tract, which is going to be promoting a hostile environment for a pregnancy. All right. So there's a multiplicity of factors. Remember, I also mentioned the endometrial cyst, or the cyst that is an endometrioma, which is a cyst on the ovary caused by endometriosis. That's going to be suppressing ovulation. Yes. So we looked at the structural, we looked at problems with ovulation, we looked at inflammation, right? So from all these angles, this is happening. And the aim of treatment is to try to target these areas.
Right.
Right?
Because all of those, all of that combination, each of those in and of themselves, but also that combination, imagine all of those factors working.
To bear
exactly.
on the reproductive system.
Right.
All right. So we spoke about surgery, and we spoke about the fact that surgery is useful for the removal of the actual endometrial deposits themselves, removal of the cysts themselves, and of course, if you remove the source, then that is going to result in some improvement, and usually result in significant improvement with regards to symptoms and pain, which is a major factor in terms of symptomatology for the woman with endometriosis. And also, the aim is to remove some of the inflammation that's taking place. Now, the inflammation, as I mentioned, not only causes pain, but produces inhibitory factors to conception and the receptivity of the uterus to implantation and carrying a pregnancy, right? And there are several other pathologies such as fibroids also create a problem with the receptivity of the endometrial lining to a pregnancy, to fertilized egg or embryo. All right. So with regards to targeting now, with regards to targeted therapy, with regards to endometriosis, what are the other options apart from surgery? Because remember, we did mention that even after having the surgery and removing, there's a high incidence of recurrence. So these things can come back.
But Doc, just to back up a bit, before you even reach surgery, you have a young couple, you know, they just got married, or even if they're not married, there's a young couple, you know, they've been together and they decide that, all right, so we've been together long enough, we're gonna get married, we're gonna start a family, or even if we don't get married, we are at the stage where we say, all right, we are going to start a family. They try, nothing happened, you know, they don't think anything too big of it, but they keep on trying and keep on trying and keep on trying, and then nothing. But then the woman naturally will go in and by herself. Doctor do a battery of tests. There are symptoms of this thing. You know, what does she tell her husband or her boyfriend? And if he comes into the knowledge of it, what's the first thing or first set of things that, you know, the couple is told to do, or, you know, because they want to start a family? You know, what happens before all of this surgery thing? There's no baby, there's no pregnancy, it can't happen, it's not happening.
So this is why it is so very important to have both partners together at the consultation, right? Very, very, very important, because the main thing is to be able to educate the couple as to exactly what's going on, right? And to be able to express that directly to the partner is what's going to be able to alleviate some of the fears, alleviate some of the myths that are associated with infertility or being barren. Sometimes it is a quick fix, a quick solution. Sometimes it's not so easy, and it can be very intensive, right? And as I mentioned, the male may have to get a semen analysis to check the sperms, check the sperm count, check the sperm viability, check the sperm motility, and all of that. In addition to looking at the woman side of things to check her tubes. So we do what's called a HSG, or a hysterosalpingogram, which is to check to see that the tubes are open or patent, in order to make sure that the egg is traveling through, right? Or the egg has the ability to travel through the fallopian tube to the womb. We have to also check to make sure that the woman is actually ovulating. Right? So we would have to do her hormonal profile, as well as her ovulation kit, as well as a series of ultrasounds to track the ovaries to make sure that she's ovulating. So it really can be intensive, right? And it is a stepwise thing, and it's very important to have both parties in on it from early, so that we can actually educate them together, right? So the partner can understand that, hey, this is what's happening, this is what's going to be required of you in terms of testing, in terms of support. Very, very, very important. Once a partner begins to understand, then support becomes easier.
Right? You said it was extensive. Is it also expensive?
It can be expensive, especially if you're going to have to be doing your hormonal profile, you're going to have to be doing your HSG, you're going to have to be doing your ultrasound. then you may have to go on and get the laparoscopy done, as I said, to remove the adhesion bands.
Right.
And then sometimes all of this doesn't result in a pregnancy, and you have to go to in vitro fertilization.
Right.
That's where my mind was going, because, well, not there yet, but as you talk, it's taking me on a gradual trajectory, because I was gonna ask you right after that, what is then going to be the sexual oh my goodness, I've lost the term that I wanted to use. Calendar or type of sexual position. Is there a certain position that they would need to have sex in? Is there a amount of times that they would need to do it?
Yeah. But even with that too, what about, because you had mentioned last week that the pain associated with sexual activity.
The pain is the most significant thing. And so the management is really geared towards making the couple comfortable, making the woman comfortable as regards to pain management. And we had touched on that a little bit.
Yes.
So with regards to pain management, it will involve some or regular NSAIDs, which would be your starting with your ibuprofen and your Advil, but we're going to be going up the pain scale in terms of pain management. So you're going to be going to your COX inhibitors, and your more high-powered painkillers. And along with that, you're going to be doing your hormonal therapies. Now, the hormonal therapies are going to be suppressing menstruation for a while, right? And so the whole idea is to limit the amount of estrogen, because endometriosis is estrogen driven, right? And the estrogen is produced with the menstrual cycle. So if we can stop the menstrual cycle for a while, we decrease the amount of estrogen in the body. The amount of estrogen is also what is affecting the inflammation. So by doing that, we are trying to control the amount of inflammation in the body, right? And thereby controlling the pain. Now, when that is done, we're not necessarily gearing towards pregnancy at that time, because this hormonal treatment is basically going to stop. The period is going to stop your reproductive potential at that point in time until you come off. And then, we take it from there. So the options could be even the
It's like a double-edged sword, though. And it sounds like it's a double-edged sword kind of situation.
You can look at it like that. And so it is a delicate balance too for the physician to track what's happening.
Yes.
All right, is it time for me to take her off this now? And so on and so forth. It's a very delicate balance.
Yes.
So your therapies could include anything from the Depo-Provera injection, which is your regular family planning injection. Usually stops the period, or you have your subdermal implants. That's the one that's placed under the skin. So your Nexplanon or your Implanon or your Jadel, right? And that is also a similar hormonal preparation as that is in the Depo-Provera injection, but it's placed under the skin. And then, of course, you have your intrauterine, which is, people would call it like your cup of tea, but only thing is that it has the progesterone hormone on it. And that is what's placed inside the womb. So these preparations do help with the pain management for endometriosis, right? So this would be our line of action in terms of managing the pain, decreasing the inflammation, and giving the body that break that it needs to decrease some of those inflammatory cells to make the womb a little bit more receptive to a pregnancy.
Wow.
Of course, a lot is to be said about diet and endometriosis. So we know that again, the whole basis of endometriosis is inflammation, and we want to target inflammation. So we want to use our anti-inflammatory foods or natural antioxidants that are going to be helping to benefit to decrease the amount of inflammation in the body as it regards to endometriosis. Of course, when we talk about recommendation and recommending therapies, we talk about evidence-based medicine. And when we talk about evidence-based medicine, we're talking about therapies that have gone through large studies and large investigations, what we call randomized controlled trials. And what this means is that they've gone through, as Teddy would have mentioned last week, something like a peer review, but not only a peer review, large enough experiments and investigations so that we can be able to say, okay, this is definitely effective. With regards to diet and dietary supplements and natural antioxidants, investigations are still ongoing with regards to endometriosis. What we do have are smaller studies, which are called case studies, or anecdotal evidence, which is 1 and 2 cases here or a collection of cases there that would show some benefit. Or we have where these natural remedies, products, natural foods, natural antioxidants have proven beneficial in other disease conditions with a similar line of pathology, such as, you know, disease conditions that affect the lining of the blood vessels, such as cardiovascular disease, or disease conditions that have a lot of inflammation, and inflammation resulting in things like cancer and so on. So we can draw from that evidence to suggest that this will be beneficial and then do further research in that area. So that is the kind of thing that's happening with endometriosis, that is relates to diet and dietary supplements and so on. So there is some benefit for your natural antioxidants. Of course, they talk about the polyphenols, right? And your flavonoids, right? And these are foods that these are natural antioxidants that you get from foods like your berries.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you what's examples,
right? Right. So you can get those from like your berries, so your blackberries, your blueberries, right? So every color.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, just asking for the viewers out there, persons who are listening, have you seen any case where a person, a woman with fibroid actually conceive?
With fibroids?
No, sorry, endometriosis, sorry.
Okay, endometriosis, yes, but it, as I said, it's difficult, it's intensive, but it's not impossible.
Okay.
And following on that, then, if they do conceive, what are the risks? What is the likelihood of a safe, normal pregnancy and delivery?
So that's hard to that's a hard question to answer, because it all depends on it's a lot of factors. So it's going to depend on, did she conceive naturally? She may have had some form of intervention, meaning she may have a full IVF cycle. So it's a whole, it's going to be a whole gamut now with regards to in vitro fertilization. So you have, it can start from, okay, her tube is fine, but her ovary needs to be stimulated. It could be her tube is fine and her womb is fine, but her ovary had a cyst and its ovulation was suppressed. So we need to stimulate her, remove the cyst, stimulate her ovaries by medication, trap the ovary, trap the eggs, right? When we trap the egg, we can do what is called harvest the egg, so egg retrieval. we would have done sperm retrieval from the male, put them together, and then do intrauterine insemination, which is we combine them in the lab and then put the embryo, 2 or 3 embryos, into the woman's womb. They have different, different areas along the way that we can intervene. But it's broadly, we can do intrauterine insemination, we can just do ovarian stimulation, or we can do everything together, depending on what's going on with the couple. Right?
It sounds like it's pretty slim and difficult. Not impossible.
It can happen, and then in vitro fertilization has its own set of risks. It's a very high risk pregnancy.
Because on one hand, you have women out there who just have sex and they get pregnant, and it's so easy, and they carry the baby. And then on the other hand, you have women who have to spend a lot of money, who get
and in vitro fertilization is expensive.
Emotionally frustrated, financially stressed, just to get something that should be a natural part of her. And so I think it's important, and you mentioned last week that there are support groups. There are endometriosis support groups, especially for scenarios like these where you have been trying, you've been spending a lot of money, and you're not seeing the results, fully.
Right. Well, and then I'm just thinking. So there's a stress of not having to deal with the endometriosis itself, right? You as a man, your spouse, your partner has this condition, that brings on extreme pain, extreme discomfort, and with that, the possibility, the rare likelihood of extra anxiety, extra sadness, maybe even depression for the woman, because she's trying to cope with all of that. You as the man, you are in the environment, and you are trying to provide support, and then you find out about the infertility. That now lick your physics, almost lick your chip, and then comes all the financial burden that is associated with the treatment and trying to become pregnant. And then for us man, who not like the talk, I mean, where does a man go? It's a kind of a private and personal thing to begin with. we need a support group for the man them as well.
Looking at it, of course, very important. Doc, just one question, just one question for you, just to interject. Is endometriosis genetic?
Oh yeah, and there's another one above it as well.
With regards to the etiology of endometriosis, it is not thought to be solely genetic. I mean, most of the times when persons ask if a condition is genetic, it means that if it is that it is passed down from one person to another, and that's not what is being shown. Right? Okay. So, right.
It's a real mystery, man.
It's a mystery.
Endometriosis is really, it is a mystery.
Okay.
With regards to causation, in terms of the specific etiologic agent, but as I mentioned, there are several theories with regards to the etiology. We mentioned one of them last time, which was the whole business of the retrograde menstruation or the backflow menstruation. And there is also thought that somehow the endometrial cells or the endometrial blood travels in the bloodstream to lodge within the pelvis on the pelvic peritoneal surfaces. There's another theory to say that because the peritoneal surface itself is, it can transform into other cell lines. So not exactly a genetic inheritance basis for the etiology. No.
Okay. All right. Thanks,
Thanks for
Doc.
that.
The other question for you was, thank you. Okay, President, thanks. So thanks, Doc. Can family planning, whether by injection or tablets, contribute to this sickness?
Contribute to it or help to treat it?
It sounds more like as a positive factor, eh? Is if I think that's what the person might be wanting to know.
No, not as
Or
a.
you could maybe answer it from both angles.
From both angles, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So it's not thought to be a causative agent. As I mentioned, the family planning injection, what is commonly called family planning injection, or the Depo-Provera, is used to treat one of the hormonal therapies that's used to treat endometriosis. Right? Even the contraceptive fail, because the whole idea is once you go on these therapies, we're going to be shutting down the period, right? We're going to be decreasing the amount of estrogen influence in the body, and estrogen is what is promoting the growth of the endometrial deposits. It's what's promoting it. So if we can decrease the amount of estrogen, we can decrease the amount of endometrial deposits, the amount of inflammation that they're causing in the body.
All right. So, which leads me to this other question. Again, you know, you hear things from time to time, and we know that we need to ensure that we are holding on to things that are properly researched, and we need to properly cross-examine and critically assess whatever we come across, and ensure that we're not promoting false information and so on. But Doc, I have been hearing quite a bit of chatter about chicken meat, and in particular the hormones that some of the poultry farmers inject the chicks with to spur on growth. You just mentioned estrogen, and it crossed my mind. If it is in fact true that the poultry farmers do inject the chicks with various growth hormones, could there be some truth to that, or a possible link between chicken meat and some of these reproductive issues? Because I have heard some women go as far as to say that they have come off of chicken, especially they started with chicken wings and then ultimately come off of chicken altogether. And women who used to have terrible menstrual cramps, for example, you know, maybe in connection to a cyst, perhaps, or fibroid, or probably even endo, and they have spoken in glowing terms about the remarkable reduction in their discomfort once they came off eating chicken.
All right. So the whole idea with that is the exogenous, what we call external estrogens, which can promote some conditions such as fibroids. It's thought that, but again, as you mentioned, there isn't any definitive study to say, okay, chicken meat is the one that is causing these things, right? And that's why I had gone through the extent of explaining the difference between evidence-based practice versus anecdotal.
Yes,
right. So sometimes
yes.
we as physicians, we have our different cases there and cases there that we observe, and we can say, okay, this is on a case by case basis. This is anecdotal evidence, right? To suggest that this will be beneficial to come off certain meats, to come off chicken meat because of the estrogenic content. So there is some correlation, but in terms of evidence, there's need for ongoing research.
Sure. Sure.
And so that is why we also mentioned the 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 diet and the dietary changes that are beneficial for endometriosis. Also, we had mentioned the polyphenols and the flavonoids, but also a high fiber diet, because what the high fiber does, it helps the body to excrete excess estrogen. So it
Oh,
would combine to the
Oh,
estrogen and assist the body to eliminate excess estrogen,
mm. I
right.
right?
always
So
say oh, have a high fiber diet, but nobody explains why. But thank you for that.
Yes.
right, right. So that's one of the things.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Okay.
Great,
Okay.
great. Yeah. Um, right. So back, I want to go back again a bit now to, I mean, the role of the man and the place of the man in all of this. So the couple is before you, and it has been determined that this endo is definitely a factor in their inability to conceive. What do you typically see in that moment? Uh, and how do you how do you how do you begin
Right.
to guide the couple, but especially the man in a situation like this?
So it's very important for the couple not to do the blame game,
Ah,
right?
Mm.
Very, very important
Probably
for the
the
couple
man say,
not
oh,
to
you
do the blame
didn't
game.
never tell me, you know?
Yes, because then you're going to say, oh, I did my part and my
yes,
part is clear. And so
yes,
therefore it's your part. No, right? Because that is going to put extra pressure on the female, right?
Mm.
right,
And I mean, even outside of endometriosis, some persons might not have something that is physically identifiable, but because of the stress that is associated, some persons just really want to have a child, really want to get pregnant. And when we look at it, they might not have what shall I say, an organic problem or a biological problem, but they're still unable to conceive because of the stress and the anxiety that's associated with it. That's going to be increasing your cortisol levels. You're going to be going through the roof. And these things are inhibitor to the uterus lining to be receptive, affecting receptivity for a pregnancy, right? So separating apart from that. So if you're going to put that in addition to the endometriosis, it's going to be quite a challenge. So this is something that's supposed to happen in a stress-free environment. It's supposed to happen in a conducive environment. It's supposed to happen in a mutual environment. All right. And so the support of the male, sometimes they don't understand how significant their role is, but their role is very, very important in helping to alleviate the stress that comes with that. Yeah, in terms of giving that emotional support, in terms of giving that level of understanding in the
yes,
situation, and
yes,
them being educated, and that is why them being educated about what is happening
right.
is very crucial to them being able to offer that type of support.
Absolutely, definitely. And that's why we really wanted to come back and just spend some time focusing on that, because I've heard quite a bit of talks and so on geared towards the women, generally as it relates to sexual and reproductive health. But I realize that a lot of times the men are often overlooked, um, as if it doesn't affect them as well. And sometimes the men perhaps are just kind of clueless as to, well, what what do I do? What can I do? you know?
Exactly, and I feel like this is a part of why in a lot of the online space you find that um, women are ordering these machines which are menstrual pain simulators, right? And these are things that they attach to the men
Oh my
abdomen.
goodness.
So you begin, you need to feel this. You need to know what it feel like,
Yeah.
right? And so
Empathy. Get some
there's
empathy here.
That's happening. If you watch some of these videos, I'm like, it's about time,
Ah!
right?
That's not
And
cool, Doc. That's not cool.
and they zap them and they increase the intensity. That's at the level one. It's like, oh, that's nothing. You walking around the house complaining.
I, I saw one of those videos, and one of the guys on Twitter.
They're like, all right, you need to stop now.
Yes.
You know, so you know, you're fine. You should be, if you're a woman, you're supposed to be. So the men really need to play their part. They need to pull some of the load, pull some of the housework, you know, and don't demean a female, your female partner, because she's going to be having a loss of work hours. She's going to be having loss of productivity. She may not be able to support you emotionally as much when she's going through this time. So,
Right.
you know, you will need to pick up the slack. We'll need to pile on some empathy and
Yeah.
and make it work, you know, and
Right.
pick up the deficit where she's not able to in those times, and that's very important. That's invaluable.
Definitely, definitely. What about impact on libido, Doc? Does it affect the woman's libido?
Endometriosis in and of itself,
Uh-huh. Or perhaps the related symptoms and issues that it produces.
I think it's more so the symptoms
Okay.
and issues that it produces,
Yeah.
because when she's going through that pain, she's not going to be interested in that. She's not going to be interested in sexual intercourse. And remember that for those who have endometriosis within the pouch of Douglas, we had gone through the anatomy last time.
Yes, yes.
And women who have what's called deep infiltrating endometriosis, women who have a uterus that's tilted back, then and the endometriosis can get the structures really fixed and firm, then there's going to be significant pain, especially on deep penetration. And so it's going to be difficult for the woman, and so it's going to require a lot of understanding from the partner. It's going to require a lot of adjustments with their sexual practice.
Yeah. Well, this serious. This is serious.
Yes, it's going to require a lot of adjustments with their sexual practice in order to facilitate intimacy in a relationship and to keep the relationship stable during these times.
Yeah. Wow. Fellas, serious business, eh? You know, this whole thing of love, you know, that's why, you know, it has to be more than just raw libido and raw sexual energy,
has
you
to
know.
be.
Yeah.
It has to be more than that. Because we just never know.
Exactly.
You just never know. And like life happens.
Never plan for that at all.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
But it is a very complex, multifaceted type of situation. It's going to be pulling on them psychological impact.
Yes.
And it's going to be very important for the men, as I said, to really, you know, put in, really go deep and think about what is important in the relationship and what they want.
Yeah.
Where can these women or a couple, you know, go? The clinics that are in and around Jamaica, where can they go? What are the name of these places that they can visit for support and for help?
Well, I know that at the University Hospital of the West Indies, there is a Hugh Winter Fertility Center.
Yeah.
That is very, very, very well equipped with managing the couples from the get-go to IVF.
Yeah.
From the whole process, right? And I know that they definitely have supportive staff, and they can also refer to support groups there.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a very good program, so much so that there is an MSc, the MSc counseling is actually offered through the Heal Winter Fertility Center. And I know this because I was slash am actually enrolled in that program. And they
Oh,
really shared with
wonderful.
us. Yeah, I took a break. I took a break, and I need to just finish up that. But when we started, they shared with us the vision of preparing counselors specifically to increase the available counselors to help with the counseling of the persons who come to the center for assistance with
Wow.
the infertility issues. You know,
That's
and
Wow.
I thought that that was really great, the vision of Dr. Winter to really cater to in a more holistic, so apart from what they are
Very
doing with the
holistic.
IVF and so on, but to
Yeah.
think about a specially designed counseling program to help persons who come to that center.
indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, we're happy for that vision. We're happy that there are places that these women and couple can go to get help, get the assistance that they need. It's so unfortunate, but sometimes it's the live reality of others, and where there's help and support and information, it's very good that we can share with people. So thank you, Doc, for sharing. I know that you are on call, and so we want to
Yes.
let you go. We don't want to let you go. But we appreciate the time that you took to come on. And there's a question for you: that
Yeah, just before you run.
can abortion contribute to endometriosis? That's a question for you in wrapping up.
Um, it is unlikely in terms of can it be the initial cause or the causative agent? Unlikely.
Okay.
Mhm.
Mm. All right. But I suppose perhaps to the extent that during the process, depending on which method is used, maybe the lining, any abrasion or scar tissue that may not have healed fully, perhaps if the condition of endometriosis were to later develop, perhaps the person may, I'm just thinking, may have
If they
more
had
discomfort.
endometriosis unknown to them, and
Right,
depending on the type of procedure that's done, it is possible that it could be worsened afterwards.
right.
Depending, it could be a myriad of things.
Yeah,
You have different types of endometriosis too. We didn't go into those that are not as common, but also possible and are more severe. You have
what?
endometriosis. Yes, that can be in your scar, can be in your C-section scar, can be in your laparoscopy scar, can be in your lung, can be in your. So it is very
What?
it
Not
can
so
be very
bad.
invasive. So
Right.
if you had endometriosis from before and you had a C-section, it's possible that the endometriosis can end up in the C-section scar after the scar heals. And every
Yeah.
time you have a period, you can bleed from the C-section scar. It can be so complicated. Yes,
Right.
so it's not so straightforward as we see and think, but at the end of the day, surgery can be done to remove some of them, some types of hormonal therapy, some types of targeted hormonal therapy is also available for these women, and of course, support from the partners
Yes.
and support groups.
Yes.
Q
Yes.
Intel Fertility Center.
All right. Great. Awesome stuff, Doc. Thanks so much
You have
for
really us from last week until up until tonight. I'm so grateful for the information. I'm just soaking in everything. I'm like a sponge. I'm soaking in everything because I know where I can lead somebody to
yeah.
just to
Yes.
come up with like
Yes.
do this. I can say, hey, I was talking with a doctor and they say you can go here, you can try this. So
Yes.
that's really good, and we thank you so much for taking the time out to share with us these very, very, very important issues and topics that people go through, and people that people are going through. You know, I may know someone, probably you may know someone very close to you, or in your circle that really need this kind of information, this exposure to information as well. So we really, really appreciate the little talk, this talk. We really appreciate it.
Yes, definitely. Thanks, Doc. All the best. And
thank you so much for having me.
Once again, just share the IG handle again, so persons who want to connect with you.
IG Clovette_Hessing, Facebook Clovette Hessing.
All right. So that's CLOVETHING, Clovette_Hessing on Instagram.
Correction, that's CLOVET_HESSING. That's right. Instagram.
For Instagram, right. And Clovette Hessing for Facebook. All right.
All right.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, man. Most welcome. Keep safe. Ladies, if you have been viewing or you come across this video delayed, the recording, make sure you pass it on to at least one man, right? Pass it on to at least one man, because we want our men to be empowered. We want our men to know, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. And knowledge is power. We are transformed, and we transformed by each other and others by information and knowledge. Remember to visit the YouTube channel and to subscribe to the channel. All right. And to follow on Instagram at Jones. This is us, Jones Clan. This is us, Jones Clan. Same handle on Facebook. Thanks to my co-host, my darling partner, wife, friend, Latoya. Thanks for being with us. And as we say, this is us, our journey, your journey, our story, your story.
See you
Signing
next time.
Until next time, I am Teddy Jones.
I'm Latoya Berry Jones.
And this is us.